I'm genuinely excited about the events of this weekend, which is the third plenum, as you say, of the 18th Party Congress. In fact, in the future, we will look back at the deliberations at that meeting as a watershed moment in the history of modern China. It is my view that we're going to see one of those phenomenal game changers in terms of Chinese history. Why? Because I believe the reforms that are likely to come out of the meeting over this weekend are going to address what is a fundamental divide in China today, and that is the great divide between the rural populations and the urban populations. Whether it be the household registration system, hukou, I think we'll see reforms there. My bottom line is, Bernie, I am very excited about this weekend's meeting, despite the name of the meeting, and I am very, very positive on Chinese equities for 2014. In fact, I think Chinese stocks will be one of the best performing markets in the world next year.
But anything the Chinese ever announce in terms of like, ooh, overarching reform, I mean, to them, quick action and follow-up is like a 5-year process in China. So what's the trigger going to be for stocks?
Okay, I think they're going to lay out a roadmap, but they're going to provide us all with a template for the fundamental reforms, some of which I mentioned earlier. And yes, you're absolutely right. Everything in China is done in a very deliberate, very planned, very careful and progressive fashion. But we have a blueprint for what we're likely to see at this weekend's meeting, because do you remember the 2030 China report that was published at the end of last year? Well, one of the authors of that report is an advisor to Xi Jinping, the president, and I believe we're going to see some really fundamental reforms which is going to unleash an enormous amount of potential energy in the Chinese economy. All that makes me believe that the Chinese stock market, being one of the cheapest in the world today, is going to see a re-rating in terms of price-earnings multiples through the course of next year.
So when do you start investing and how do you start investing in China? I mean, do you do it before Saturday?
Absolutely.
Or do you do it after Saturday?
I think you start it right now.
Right now?
Right now. And in my last pain report, I actually was recommending to my subscribers that they allocate funds to the Chinese stock market. It's the first time I've put out an explicit buy Chinese stocks message for a very, very long time.
How? It's not easy to do. I mean, you can do it through managed funds, of course, or you enter via Hong Kong.
Through Hong Kong, obviously, and also exchange-traded funds. And that gives you blanket kind of coverage. The problem with the Chinese stock market, particularly in the last 18 months, is that the financials have underperformed so dramatically. But I think the financials now are so cheap, and a lot of the bad news is in the price. But nothing wrong with a broad brush exposure to the Chinese equity market, in my view, in 2014.